Hey, what's up, Shadowverse soldiers? Before we get into it, I wanted to talk about a new tournament that I'm hosting, the Olivia's Webcam Tournament. It's a $20 entry fee, and it's a best of 3 Swiss rounds. First place gets a Dark Angel Olivia, while second place gets 45, third place gets 20, and fourth gets 15. We'll be doing it on November 4th, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'll put a link in the description below, and I will hope to see you guys there. What is up, my Shadowverse soldiers, and welcome back to another Enverse Academy video. So yesterday we did Abysscraft, and we just did Abysscraft just for the Halloween season to match the day. But for this section, we're still in Runecraft, and there are 2 decks that come in every archetype for every craft. So the second deck that we're going to be talking about is Earthright / Dirt. So, if anyone's talking about Earthright or Dirt, they're talking about Runecraft with amulets that focus around the amulets and stuff, and they have a keyword skill that has stack, and you use those stacks to use Earthright to consume to do more abilities, and it's very complex. It's very complex. That's the word I'm thinking of. So, let's talk about the pros and cons of Earthright. So, Earthright has good burn, has a good balance of spells, and is very, very strong. Now, the cons for Earthright, unfortunately, is that it's follower dependent. It's mid to late game, so it's not very fast. It's strongest as of set 2 so far, so I'm not sure if Uma Derby is going to have any good Earthright cards. I haven't heard anything good, but so far it's not looking too good. But another thing, a big con is you need a big brain to play Earthright. So it's one thing to play Runecraft, and Runecraft is very flexible, but you have to be very, very complex with the matchup. So not as in you're not stupid enough to play Earthright. You just need to learn the matchups, and it's very hard to do that when there's so many matchups you have to learn, especially in this aggressive meta that we have. It's very, very hard. So let's talk about what stack means. So stack is when amulets with stack are put onto the field with 1 stack, they have 1 counter on them. When this card would leave the field, we'll remove 1 stack counter from it instead. When this card's stack counter reaches 0, you destroy the amulet. So, when you have a stack, you can actually engage your magic sediment or a amulet that has stack on it, and you can transfer your stack counters onto that card. So let's say I play Teaching's Creation, and then on turn 2, I play Alchemist Workshop. So, if I don't, amulets stick on the field, and you don't want to flood your field with amulets. So I can transfer my stacks from Teaching's Creations over to Alchemist Workshop, and Alchemist Workshop will have 2 stacks on it. So, that's how you can keep your board clear, so you're not just filled with stacks like you're playing Havencraft on the CCG, because the CCG Havencraft was in its first phase, of course. It's just a whole bunch of amulets on the field. You had no sort of monsters or creatures or followers or nothing. It was just straight amulets on the field, and you just had to wait for a countdown. But luckily in the TCG, Earthright is very different. You can just have multiple stacks on one, and the rest of the 4 cards that you want can be anything you want them to be. But the thing about Crafted Warlock is when his last words are, for a summon, you can summon a magic sediment token. When he's evolved, you can summon a magic sediment token and add 1 stack to that. So you'll have 2 stacks on 1 magic sediment token, and that's very good to start off with, especially if you're going first. You're hitting the gas pretty good on stack. That's 2 stacks, so you can use Earthright twice. Now, you're probably wondering, Sparta, what in the world is Earthright? Okay, so Earthright basically means you can consume those stacks from the amulet and you get bonuses. So let's look at Runa Guardian here. She's a good staple for Earthright. So when she's played, you can choose one of the following effects. You can either Earthright, give her a +1/+2, which is very good because she has Ward and she becomes a 4/6. And since I was talking about earlier for the pros and cons that this is a fast meta, Runa Guardian can definitely 100% stall them a turn, because these early decks, or these fast and early decks, don't really have any good destroying enemy follower cards or, you know, minus effects as of right now for set 2. So it's very good. Another example will be the Arch Summoner. When he comes into play, you Earthright, so you consume a stack, and you select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 6 damage and then 2 to its leader. So that's a good example of the burn I was talking about for the pros. Now, when you can do Earthright again by engaging him, and you can select an enemy follower on the field and deal it 6 damage and 2 damage to its leader. So that's 4 to the face and 12 divided amongst 2 followers. So, pretty good. Now, Golem Protection, on the other hand, is a spell card. So there's every version of a card that has a Earthright. So you can summon 2 guard form Golem tokens, and then Earthright, you can give each Golem token on your field +1/+1. So that's pretty good in terms of Earthright. There's multiple cards for Earthright. So this deck has the complexity of definitely getting there, but you have to really fine-tune your deck to see how it works. But speaking of golems, that brings us to our next part. So we have Ancient Alchemist here. So Ancient Alchemist, when you evolve her, it costs 3. But when she comes into play, you can use Earthright and summon 2 guard form golems. So how we were talking about with Golem Protection earlier, it's a 4, and then all your golems get +1/+1 if you're Earthright. So if you have 2 stacks on the field, you can play Ancient Alchemist and then wait the next turn and then play those 2 guard form golems, and then potentially, if you want to play an extra one, if there isn't already a stack on the field, then you can use Golem Protection and play 2 guard form golems. They get +1/+1. Now, let's talk about Ancient Alchemist's evolve, because you probably don't want to do the play that I was just talking about after you see this evolve. So, Ancient Alchemist's evolve is when this card is put onto the field, your Golem followers cost 1 less to play. So those Golem followers in your EX area turns into 1s. And whenever a Golem follower is put onto your field, you select the enemy leader or enemy follower on the field and deal it 3 damage. So we're back to that pro that I said earlier for it having good damage. And you're basically, those 2 golems that are sitting in your EX area, that's 6 damage to the face already. And then if you do Golem Protection, that's another 6 damage. So she's really good. Her and Arch Summoner are very good when it comes to burning your opponent. But on the other hand, this is a very expensive play. You have to see Ancient Alchemist on 3, and then on turn 4, you have to evolve her because her evolve is pretty expensive. Now, hopefully in the future, there will be some way to reduce evolve costs, but unfortunately right now, Ancient Alchemist is a turn 3, and it consumes your turn 4, and then you get a Ward Golem. And at this point, you're definitely doing 3 damage to them, so it feels really good. But later on in the plays, when you hit turn 5 and 6, they're going to be focusing this card. So I guess that's better than them focusing you. But 100% do not swing with Ancient Alchemist after you evolve her in turn 4. The 3 damage isn't worth, because you playing a Golem matches what she would swing for. But most of the time, they're going to be dealing with her. And it feels really bad when you have to consume your turn 3 and turn 4 with Ancient Alchemist. But if you see her later on in the turns, it feels better. Now let's talk about the new supporting cards for Earthright and Dirt. So as of set 2, we got 3 new cards. I'm pretty sure that's all the cards that we got. Forgive me if I didn't put them all up here. But we got 3 new cards, and they're actually pretty good. So let's go ahead and start. So we have Sun Oracle Pascal. When she comes into play, you summon a Magic Sediment token, the one with stack, of course. But she has 2 cool abilities that really do come in clutch for whatever situation you're in. And I feel she's pretty flexible. Just like Earthright is. It's pretty flexible being in Runecraft, so we love that. So you can Earthright to consume that Magic Sediment token, or, you know, whatever stacks that you have. And you can select the enemy follower on the field and give it -2/-2. And the other ability is you can do the exact same thing with Earthright and engaging her, but you can give a follower on your field +2/+2. And I feel like this combo with Runic Guardian is very good, because Runic Guardian turns into a 6/8. And if they don't have straight removal, they're going to have a hard time removing Runic Guardian off the field. Next, we have Red Hot Ritual. It's a stat card that deals 3 damage to the field, so it's very good removal. And that's what Earthright needed, was much more removal, because there's not that much good removal so far. It's not as bad as I would say Swordcraft, but it's, you know, it just needed more removal. Now, we have Remy and Rami, Witchy Duo. So on Evolve, you summon a Strike Form Golem, and then you can Earthright and give a +2 attack. A Strike Form Golem has 3 attack and 2 defense, and it being a 5/2 is very threatening. Also patched with Sun Oracle Pascal to even make it a 7/4, which is very, very scary. But these are the new supporting cards for as of set 2. They're pretty good, along patched with our older cards from set 1, and it's very, very good. So let's talk about the game plan for Earthright. So your turns 1 through 3 are you generating sediment token, magic sediment tokens or stacks, using teaching creations, and then using Alchemist Workshop to either deal with their aggressiveness and get something off the field. But your whole game is either wrapped around burning them to death. So here's what my line of plays would be. On turn 3, I'm going to sacrifice my turn by playing Ancient Alchemist. Turn 4, I'm going to evolve her, play a Guard from Golem, and then do a ward, and then burn you for 3. Turn 5, I'm praying, I have my hands together and praying that Ancient Alchemist stays, and I have Juno's Secret Laboratory. If you don't know what Juno's Secret Laboratory does, you summon a Guard from Golem or a Strike from Golem token onto the field. And then you can either summon a Magic Sediment token, which you usually might not need, but if you're removing them just to stay alive, then that's how it goes. But you can either Earthright to get rid of the Magic Sediment token or a stack, and you can summon a Guard from Golem or a Strike from Golem. So this paired up with Ancient Alchemist is very good. So you can summon whatever Golem that you need during the situation that you need just from playing Juno's Laboratory. And then you can Earthright to do it again. So you remember how you burned them 6 for playing 2 Golems? Now you're going to burn them 6 through Juno's Laboratory. So that's really, that's 12 already. And then you want to patch it up with the 4 with Arch Summoner. And that's really what you're going to do, along with some other cards that we'll talk about later on. But that's really your game plan. You're not really going for, hey, I'm going to swing face at you. These cards are going to hit you in the face. No, I'm going to play these Golems. I'm going to ward them up. Or I'm going to get rid of your followers that are either at 3 or 5. And I'm just going to keep burning you for face. That's really what you want to go for. There are some situations where you need to burn certain cards, but that's not usually how it goes. You really want to burn face, and that's what I like about Earthright Runecraft. So Earthright really does the good burning things and removing stuff. So basically you really don't have to interact with most of people's cards. So like things with ward or things with any of that, you can just ward up yourself and make them swing into your guys if they don't have any good spells. Now, the only matchup that really isn't like the optimal one is Havencraft, because they have lots and lots of removal. And if they execute your Juno's Laboratory, then you're in a bad spot, or any of your followers, and that's the con that we have. If they get rid of your Ancient Alchemist, it feels really bad. And you're just sitting there looking at your opponent while you're trying to find your way out. Now, Runecraft is up in the air. So if you're against the other Earthright player, you have to play smart, as you needed for the big brain for the con. Or if you're playing against D-Shift, you just burn them because they take a long time to set up. And they only have like a couple answers for Ancient Alchemist, that being Fiery Embrace and some other cards. But you have to make sure you evolve Ancient Alchemist on 4. Or you just have to make sure you evolve Ancient Alchemist to make sure she doesn't sit at 5. So these are your good matchups. In terms of Forestcraft, if it's the fairy line, then you should do very well because their fairies aren't that big. But if it comes to the late game where they're bouncing things, especially with the new Crystalia Lily card that 100% like just bottom decks your Ancient Alchemist with no sort of interaction besides the Evo. But these are your optimal matchups. These 3 right here, the slow decks. The slow decks are really what helps you get there, what helps you ramp up and get to where you need to be. And it feels better when you're going against a slow deck because you can just burn them slowly. Now, Havencraft, like I said before, is one of the harder ones, but it's still a good matchup because they're going to be healing and they're going to be removing. But that's all they're going to be doing. Now, let's get up into the bad matchups. The bad matchups are in the shape of Dragoncraft, Abysscraft, and Swordcraft. So we're going to talk about Abysscraft and Swordcraft, and then we'll get into Dragoncraft. So, Abyss and Swordcraft, they're going to be playing small bodies. You're not doing anything from turns 1 and 2 besides generating your stacks. And those are the turns where Abysscraft and Swordcraft are going to go off because they're going to be playing small bodies. They're going to be playing things that will hit you as soon as they come out. or they can just be dealing damage to you that you can't interact with. Now, Runic Guardian does help you slow down these matches, but on the other hand, you gotta remember, Runic Guardian is a turn 3 play, so it really does hurt. But, you know, you can really definitely get some removal in for these decks and patch it to how you want to. Now, let's go ahead and get into the big elephant in the room, Dragoncraft. So Dragoncraft does everything. It's gonna do everything that it needs to do. Turns 1 and 2, they don't care because they're going to be a turn ahead of you because they're going to do Dragon's Oracle and Ramp. Now, turns 4, 5, and 6 is up in the air because they're either going to be in the shape of Shenlong to either heal themselves, to stop you from burning them down, or they're going to Forte you and you're going to have no interaction because you have your golems to swing at them, but, I mean, Forte is going to swing 7 at you, and that's what you're going to have to expect. And you can the maximum amount of burn that you're going to do is 6. And Forte's swinging at you for 7, so she's 100% better than you. So Dragoncraft is definitely like the worst matchup that you can get. You can't really craft your deck into beating Dragoncraft. You can definitely... It's not an auto-lose. It's not an auto-lose. There are no auto-lose decks as of right now. But Dragoncraft is really your toughest matchup. So craft your deck into either how the meta being fast. These are the fast decks. All three of these are the fast decks. No matter how you look at it, these decks are going to be the fastest. So 100% Dragoncraft being the worst matchup, and then Abysscraft and Swordcraft is like really, after turn 5, you definitely are looking good in terms of Abysscraft, but the Swordcraft being a really, really good deck. Turn 6, you have to watch out for Leonidas. There's no way to really get rid of that besides execution for the resolve, but these are your worst matchups. So let's talk about tech options. So the tech options for Earthright are definitely in the form of Demon Flame Mage, Execution, Surefire Bullet, and Bellringer. So Bellringer, forgive me that the card is backwards, I don't know how that got there. But Bellringer 100% slows the game down. If they're hitting you for aggro early, you can place her down, generate some value off of that. Especially if they're on turn 1, they're only swinging for 1 at Bellringer, or if they can't even, swing. You definitely evolve Bellringer to get rid of something and then engage her. Surefire Bullet to get rid of those pesky guys in the mid game that cost 3 or 4. Execution to definitely just straight up remove anything off the field in the form of being amulets and or a follower. And then Demon Flame Mage for another one of those mid games where if they've swarmed a whole bunch of bodies, you can catch them off guard and just ping 2 to everything, especially with the early games of the Abysscraft and Swordcraft. So let's go ahead and give some honorable mentions to these 2 cards here. So you know how we are burning people that's our game plan, is to burn people. And how we were talking about Junos earlier to deal 6 damage. So another way to deal 6 damage is to 100% use Merlin to get Demonic Strike, use Demonic Strike, and then evolve Merlin, and you can 100% deal 6 damage through that too. So these are some honorable mentions. I love these 2 cards together in comparison. With just the Earthright stuff, I think there should be enough space to just put them into your deck. But if you're crafting it to where you need to survive for the meta, you might not have any flex spots for it. But I do want to give a shout out to these 2 cards. They're very good in the deck, so it helps follow along with the burn damage and whatnot, and it feels pretty. So let's go ahead and do the overview of Earthright and Dirt. Alrighty, so you know that Earthright has very good burn damage. It's very good. It's follower dependent, unfortunately, so if they get rid of your Ancient Alchemist, you're not doing too good, or your Arch Summoner gets removed, it doesn't feel too good as well. So these are some cards that you really have to depend on, but you're generating some good value off of your amulets, that being the Alchemist Workshop to get rid of anything that's really hurting you, along with Remy and Rami to do the evolve with Earthright to give something 5, so you can definitely deal with something, or you can transfer into either playing Juno's Laboratory to just warding up and stalling the game out, which you can do along with Bellringers. So you have the ability to be flexible into 100% doing anything that you want to do, especially with the Runecraft cards that you had if you paid attention in the D Shift video, those cards did not say, hey, you can only run this with Earthright, or if you're running the Runecraft, you can run the Runecraft cards, and then there are some neutral cards that 100% help slow down the game in the form of being Bellringer. So, you know that we do a grade system every time we are going to do this. And we're going to give Earthright a we're going to give it an A. I'm going to give it an A because Earthright really has this spot to do well. And recently, I think there was a regional this past weekend and it got first place. So Earthright isn't S tier. It's not tier 1. I believe Runecraft would be tier 1.5. Because in the whole fact that it's, if I'm using the term correctly, it's like a dark horse. No one's going to be expecting Runecraft because Runecraft is really slept on. It's kind of like the roguey deck that you really feel like you're not going to see it, but if you do see it, you're like, okay, the first question I'm going to ask is, what version of Runecraft this is? And then, you know, no one's going to know that after the first couple. They're going to know that after the first couple of turns since they see the first cards, of course. But, you know, you can always surprise them. That's the thing. You can choose how you build Runecraft, and not every Runecraft build is going to be the same. So that's the best part I like about Runecraft, and you know, whoever has the best build is going to do the best. So we give Earthright an A because it's still in Runecraft, and it has the flexibility to be anything it wants to be. You can handcraft it into whatever you want it to be, in the form of it being a removal, or a good burn, or a good follower attacks, you know, so on, so on. But that's the video for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you guys so much for staying tuned. I'm glad you guys are safe after Halloween yesterday. And, you know, if you have tummy aches from eating all that candy, then, you know, drink some water and make sure you're safe. And at the end of the day, make sure you're safe at the end of the day, and make sure you're safe for the rest of the year. I love you guys so much. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and tell people about me. I love playing Shadowverse, and I love talking to you guys. So I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.
I gave you all my love, baby, my heart is cold when you're around. You warm it up, liquid gold, baby, yeah, you warm it up, liquid gold, baby, and my affection, all that paper you wasted. Take my love.